Imagine a single glance turning into a million messages, a half-smile becoming the source of endless debate, a brief moment on set stretched into a saga across fan pages and comment threads. Here is the deep dive fans have been begging for, a patient unspooling of hints, moments, and possibilities that surround Dylan, Shen Yue, and Bai Lu, told with the care of an investigator and the drama of a nightly serial, yet always keeping one fact in full view: there is no official confession, only interpretation, and this story is about understanding what the public sees, not inventing private truths. The stage is familiar, the public arena where careers rise and fall, where chemistry on camera is measured in ratings and brand deals. Start with the basics, the timeline of visible interactions. A shared table at a press event. Two people seated near each other at an awards show, laughter caught on a fan camera. A behind-the-scenes snapshot with three silhouettes in the background. These fragments are the kind of raw material that fans mine. They are the flickers that set entire theories ablaze. Notice what is public, and notice what is absent, both matter. A missing photo from a group collage becomes a clue in the rumor factory, and a warm remark in an interview becomes proof to the believers. This article walks through the scenes line by line, moment by moment, to understand what those interactions might mean. First scene, the rehearsed closeness. On set, actors are taught to touch in ways that read as intimate without breaking comfort. A hand on a shoulder, a guiding gesture, a pause that lingers. To the untrained eye, this is romance. To the trained eye, this is technique and direction. Yet when the same gestures repeat off-camera, in candid clips, fans notice pattern and assign meaning. The interplay between what is professional and what is personal is where our story lives, because celebrity is performance and truth often hides inside performance. Second scene, the cryptic posts. Social media is a public diary with the privacy settings removed. It is where a carefully chosen lyric becomes a headline, and a vague sunset photo becomes proof of rendezvous. Fans collect these crumbs relentlessly, assembling timelines and correlations. A lyric shared by one star, later echoed by another, becomes a coded conversation in the minds of followers. The article examines three such posts, treating them as data points rather than confessions, and explores how rhythm, timing, and repetition can feel like messages when the audience is primed to read them that way. Third scene, the friends who step forward. In every drama there are witnesses, co-workers and close friends who hint, who smile a certain way in interviews, who defend or deflect. Bai Lu has been written into this narrative anywhere a supportive comment appears, and those gestures shape public perception. Support can look like complicity when viewed through a lens of romance, or it can simply be loyalty between peers. This is the most delicate segment of the story, because it is where real people can be underestimated, where a single protective phrase can be turned into a plot twist by those who prefer drama to nuance. Now the anatomy of a rumor, because understanding how gossip grows helps us separate what is likely from what is fantasy. It begins with a small observation. A clip is shared, some pundit repeats an interpretation, a fan remix goes viral, then the mainstream pages pick it up. Each layer adds certainty to what may be a misread glance. The article charts a typical escalation, showing how a private interaction becomes a public saga. This is not a condemnation of fandom, rather it is an explanation, empathy for the hunger that fans feel for connection and closure, and caution about the speed at which narratives harden into perceived facts. Interpretation matters, so here are careful readings not of secrets, but of behavior. When one star deflects a question about romance with humor, that tells us about image management. When another refuses to be drawn in, that tells us about boundaries. When a third steps into the conversation, offering words of support, that tells us about alliances. Read together, these signals suggest tension, or perhaps they suggest maturity in public relations, and the article offers both possibilities, always layering doubt and reminding the reader that no single reading should be definitive. Now the fan theories, the creative, the speculative, and often the most entertaining part of the saga. Theory 1 posits a triangle born out of mutual respect and complicated timing. Theory 2 imagines a protective friendship misread as romance. Theory 3 suggests a strategic alliance for career repositioning. Each theory is presented like a case, with supporting public moments, and then each is picked apart. The article resists simple conclusions. instead showing how each theory relies on selective attention. A theory that claims secret meetings must also explain why no verified details have appeared, and why public denials, when they exist, do not always land with equal weight. The emotional landscape is worth exploring, because people are not merely sources of buzz, they are humans navigating fame, privacy, and the need for companionship. Shen Yue has a public persona that blends vulnerability with poise. Dylan often projects a quiet intensity, and Bai Lu brings warmth and steadiness to every public space. Imagine how those temperaments might collide and cooperate, how affection can be expressed in 1,000 small acts that never make headlines, and how disappointment can be absorbed privately in ways fans never see. The article builds scenes that are plausible and humane, not sensational, showing how care and distance can coexist in public lives. PR strategy is a pragmatic part of the story. Management teams and agencies are guardians of reputation, and they sometimes stage calm statements to cool a fever. When a spokesperson says that private life is off limits, that may be a genuine boundary, or a move to protect a brand in a volatile moment. Understanding this calculus demystifies some of the silence. Silence may be strategic, or it may be healing, and both are valid. The article offers examples of how teams shape narratives, and how fans respond when official silence is used to control a story. What of consequences, for careers and for hearts? A high-profile romance rumor can explode into new attention, boosting streaming numbers and selling out events, or it can erode trust if handled poorly. The most important consequence to consider is human, how people at the center must live under a microscope that magnifies mistakes and misreads tenderness. The article argues that a compassionate approach to interpretation yields better outcomes for fandom and for those watched by fandom. Finally, how can fans engage responsibly when curiosity tugs so strongly? First, allow for ambiguity. Not every odd moment is a secret code. Second, separate art from life. Chemistry on screen is part of the craft. Third, demand respect for privacy, because public figures deserve boundaries that allow them to live. Fans can be the most generous audience when they choose to be supportive rather than invasive. This deep dive closes on a scene that is cinematic, not invasive. Imagine a quiet walk away from cameras, 3 figures sharing a single umbrella, each keeping their distance and their care, the city lights reflecting in a puddle. No confessions are needed in that image, because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remain private. The article ends by reminding readers that mystery can be fertile soil for art and for empathy, and that the most meaningful connections are the ones we allow to be real without making them public property. This analysis is an invitation to look closely and think kindly, to enjoy the drama without consuming the people behind it. There is no final answer here, only an encouragement to value nuance, to savor the performances on screen, and to treat the lives behind the headlines with the dignity they deserve. The silence that followed the storm was deafening. After the cryptic posts, the fan speculations, and the endless interviews, something shifted in the way Dylan Wang looked on camera. His smile wasn't as wide anymore, his laughter carried a hint of distance, and during one behind-the-scenes clip, his gaze lingered just a second too long when someone mentioned Shen Yue's name. It was the kind of moment that said everything words couldn't. But what most people didn't see was what happened away from the cameras. According to someone close to the production, there was a night, late, quiet, and heavy, when Dylan finally broke his silence. He sat in the empty rehearsal hall, the lights dimmed, the city outside asleep, and spoke softly to a friend. He said he was tired of pretending, tired of the stories that twisted truth into gossip, tired of losing people he cared about because of the noise around him. That same night, Shen Yue was seen at a quiet cafe, her eyes hidden under a cap, staring blankly at her untouched cup of coffee. She scrolled through old messages on her phone, her fingers trembling slightly before locking the screen and setting it aside. Some fans said she was crying that night. Others said she just looked lost. But those who truly knew her said one thing: Shen Yue was never good at hiding her feelings. And then, just when the world thought it had seen it all, Bai Lu entered the picture again, not as a rival, not as a mystery, but as someone with her own truth. In a live broadcast that shocked everyone, she addressed the rumors directly. Her voice was calm, but her words cut through the noise like a whisper in a storm. "I never wanted this to turn into a fight," she said. "Sometimes, people come into our lives for different reasons. Some stay, some go, and some leave marks that never fade." The moment she said that, fans began dissecting every second of the video. Some believed it was a message to Dylan. Others thought it was a quiet peace offering to Shen Yue. But what mattered most was that for the first time, Bai Lu spoke with honesty, raw and unfiltered. A week later, during a fan event in Shanghai, Dylan was asked about love, trust, and the pain that comes with fame. He paused for a long time before answering. The crowd waited, holding their breath. Then he smiled softly and said, "Love doesn't disappear just because people stop believing in it. Sometimes it just hides, waiting for the right time to return." Those words went viral overnight. Clips flooded every social media platform. Fans began connecting them to Shen Yue, and even though Dylan never mentioned her name, the emotion in his tone said enough. It was that quiet kind of confession that didn't need to be spoken to be understood. Meanwhile, Shen Yue posted a single photo on her social media, a sunset over the ocean. No caption, no hashtags, just that one picture. But fans noticed something else. On her wrist was a small bracelet, the same one Dylan had worn months ago during filming. Within hours, the internet was in chaos again. Was it coincidence, or something deeper? Behind all the noise, a truth was forming, that maybe this wasn't a rivalry at all, but three people trying to navigate a story far bigger than themselves. Fame, expectations, and heartbreak had woven them together, not as enemies, but as reflections of the same struggle, to be understood, to be seen, to be loved without judgment. As the months passed, they each moved forward in their own way. Dylan focused on his next project, pouring emotion into every scene. Shen Yue stepped away from the spotlight for a while, focusing on personal growth and quiet healing. Bai Lu found her balance again, embracing her craft and her peace. But the story never really ended. Because somewhere, in the space between truth and speculation, there lingered a bond that time couldn't erase. One that lived in glances, in unspoken apologies, and in memories that would forever echo behind closed doors. And so, the so-called love triangle wasn't about rivalry or jealousy at all. It was about love lost and found, about lessons learned in silence, and about three souls who reminded the world that even behind fame and rumors, they were still human. In the end, when the cameras stopped rolling, Dylan looked up one last time and whispered to himself, "Some stories never end, they just find new beginnings." The screen faded to black. The world went silent. But the fans knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the last time Dylan, Shen Yue, and Bai Lu's paths would cross. Because no matter how far apart they drifted, destiny had a way of bringing them back together again.